Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sebagai pengenalan, Seminar Sukarelawan Hospital Kebangsaan 2019 merupakan satu inisiatif daripada pelbagai agensi yang bergabung untuk melaksanakan program yang julung kali diadakan. Penganjur utama iaitu Hospital Pakar Al-Islam bersama-sama Hospital Pengajar Universiti Putra Malaysia dengan kerjasama Angkatan Belia Islam Malaysia, Kelab Bimbingan Mahasiswa UPM, Adab Youth Garage AYG, Malaysia Relief Agency dan Islamic Outreach ABIM sangat komited menggembling tenaga untuk menjadikan seminar kali ini. So, are you ready? Okay, alhamdulillah hadirin, kita sudah mengetahui berkenaan program ini. Majlis diteruskan lagi dengan slot seterusnya yang bertajuk Why Do We Need a Hospital Volunteer yang akan disampaikan oleh Miss Rehana. So before that, I would like to share a little bit about Miss Rehana. Sister Rehana Sadiq, postgraduate diploma, integrative counselor and psychotherapy, has worked as a Muslim chaplain for two Birmingham NHS hospital trusts since the year 2000, helping to develop respective chaplaincy departments into a proactive multi-faith term. She has been counselling in the Muslim community for over 30 years. In 2006, she qualified as a psychotherapist from the University of Central England, Birmingham. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Hannah to give her speech. Okay, Miss, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. My Lord, relieve my mind and ease my task, and loosen a knot from my tongue that they may understand my saying. Dearest brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamualaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Oh, you're a lovely, lively lot. MashaAllah, how wonderful. So, I shared a little bit of all your excitement this morning. That was wonderful. And I ask you also to forgive me for being delayed just now, because I was sitting with Dr. Wan Aziza and completely unaware that I should be here and not sitting there and chatting away. So forgive me for that. I would like to make the session as possible, as interactive as possible, but being in a room like this, where you've got a lecture kind of setting, it's not always conducive to talking together. But I would like to be able to try as best as I can, inshallah, to be able to talk to you so that we can have some kind of discourse. Can I just ask our technicians, is there a roaming mic to be able to go, if people do have, there is one? Yeah, lovely, okay. So we've got a roaming mic. If you don't want or you don't feel right about sharing or speaking on a roaming mic, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We'll still be able to manage and get on. Okay, so about volunteering, one of the things that we have to understand is what it means to be a volunteer in chaplaincy. But how will you understand what volunteering in chaplaincy is about unless I explain to you what chaplaincy is? Yeah? So I will try and explain to you a little bit about my role as a chaplain without going into too much detail, but you do need to know, because if you don't understand that, then you're not going to be able to understand what it would mean in terms of a volunteer working for chaplaincy. So you really do have to get your thinking caps on, because it's really important to be able to understand that some of what you heard the last speaker speak about was actually chaplaincy work. But I'm going to try to help you to understand the difference between that and religious work. All right? And there is a difference. When I am asked, when I go to my Muslim community or to, not even community, but the community, I find that most people don't know what a chaplain is about. We're not just there for Muslims. May I ask, please, a show of hands for those who may not be Muslims that are here today? Are there any other, do I have any friends here that are not Muslims? Does it look like it? Yes, we do. We do. Lovely. Welcome to you. A special welcome to you. Because chaplaincy isn't only about religion, yes it is, but it's about the spirit. And it's about accepting everybody for who they are and what they believe in. So it's not about you have to believe everything that they say and they have to believe everything that you believe. It's not about that. It's about respecting that other person to be able to believe and practice as they want to believe. So, why do we have chaplains? Why do we need them? Why do we need volunteers in chaplaincy working in hospitals? I'm going to not answer that immediately. I'm going to share some stories with you as we go along. And I hope that maybe some of you will have questions to ask me, and maybe we might be able to hear more examples. And then through that way, hopefully, we'll be able to understand how and why volunteers are needed. So, most of the hospitals in Britain, you will find there's a chaplaincy department. For a lot of the ethnic minorities in Britain, I will explain or try to explain who I am, where I belong, so that they can box me in, right? So I'll often approach the patient, and after saying who I am, my name, I'll say, so I work in the department where the priest works, or the padre works, or the padre works. I am here to meet the religious needs of patients and staff. But is it gone? Do I need to adjust this technician? Here it goes off and on all the time. All right. Then that's fine. So, sorry about that. It just put me off when I can hear myself loud and then I don't hear myself loud. I think that you can't hear me. But anyway, here we go. Where did I get up to? What was the last thing I said? Sorry? No, I can't. What was the last thing I said? Sorry? I was going to share a story. Was I? I've forgotten it. Okay. I will share stories so that you begin to understand what chaplains need. Oh, approach. I was talking about approaching a patient. And when I approach them, I help them to understand that I am working in a certain department. So then they think, yes, now I know where she's from. But the reactions and the responses are very, very different from different people, because I still don't know what for. Am I here to tell them that they should be praying? Am I here to tell them that they should believe in God? Chaplains don't do that, or they're not supposed to do that. Excuse me. Chaplains are there just to be with others. Yes, the religious aspect is important. We were in Britain, we were mainly Christians in the chaplains departments. Just a priest would be there, or a reverend. Later on, 19 years ago, when I started in Birmingham as a Muslim chaplain, we became Christian and Muslim chaplaincy. We had contacts for a Jewish coordinator, so we had the Abrahamic faiths. The following year, we had a Sikh chaplain, and then a Hindu chaplain, and we had a Buddhist chaplain, and we now even have a humanist chaplain. And humanists don't believe in the life after this world. So the way that that humanist will work with their humanist patients, completely different to the way that I will with a Muslim. So it's all incredibly interesting, but the wonderful thing is that it's about spiritual care. It's about spiritual and pastoral care. Showing care, doing care, and trying to trying to reach the Spirit. We will be looking at how we do it, because that's absolutely essential, otherwise you won't know how we do it. What's really important also to understand is that we don't proselytize. Anybody know what we mean by proselytizing? Anybody? Shout it out. It means that we don't push our agenda on anybody else. It means that we don't try to convert. Right? Now, just like Muslims believe in da'wah and want to be able to spread the faith and teach it and let people come to Islam, so do Christian missionaries, and so do, there are many different religions that believe that their religion is the best and everybody else should really learn about it and should really know it and actually should convert to it. We don't proselytize. And when it comes to selecting volunteers, which I'm going to move on to in a little while, actually, we look out for that. And if we find that somebody is there wanting to be a volunteer because they are hoping to spread the good news and let everybody know so that they might also come to Islam or come to Christianity or come to whatever faith, then actually we kindly let them know, maybe there's another place for you to be working to do that. So that they can then go off to wherever, but in the hospital, this is not the place. This is a place, we hope, of healing. This is the place where we hope people are going to find comfort. So that's what we do, and our volunteers do a lot of that. So, for me, as a Muslim chaplain, let me start with some of my stories now. I will go and visit, and I will sit. I'll explain what I'm doing, but I won't sit unless I know I'm wanted. I won't be there unless I know that they want me to be there. And we have to learn about rejection. We have to learn when somebody doesn't want you there that it's not your place to be there, right? A chaplain is somebody who's supposed to come and give comfort. If you are going to impose yourself on somebody, then you're not going to find that they can that comfort from you. I will say, so it depends whether it's a Muslim or not Muslim. And if I know they're Muslim, then I might say, Assalamualaikum. My name is Rihanna, and I work in the chaplaincy department. And then I'll explain what the chaplaincy department is. And then I'll say, and I've just come to see you for a minute or two. I put that in deliberately, a minute or two. at least they know I'm not going to be sitting there invading that space for 20 minutes if they don't want it. And sometimes I'll say, I've come just to give you a smile and ask you how you are. They make it easy. And suddenly, they now have somebody that's come to them that doesn't want to poke a needle in them, that doesn't want to make them do give them physiotherapy and make them feel more pain, that doesn't want to come and take a lot of history, that doesn't want to come and say, no, you have to take this medicine, but somebody who's just come to give them a smile, come to ask them how they are. How do you think that might be different from the family coming and asking how you are? Is it different? Yeah. With your family, you can either just share what you really feel and say, oh, it's been terrible today, and the nurse on duty today, oh, she must have got out of the wrong side of bed. They can share all of that. They can say all of that. Or sometimes their pain is such that they don't want to say, oh, it's really hard today, I feel sick today, because they don't want their family to feel their pain. They know that sometimes their close loved one feels more pain when they are sharing their pain. But you know what? With a chaplain or a chaplaincy volunteer, they can do that. So it's incredibly liberating for them. It's part of what we understand as holistic care. And this care that we give helps them to be able to get better quickly, we hope. And there's a lot of research that's been shown about how people actually get better quicker when they do have spiritual and pastoral care. I remember once going and speaking to seeing a patient, and sometimes I'm not sure as a female whether or not a male might want to see me. And same with my male Muslim chaplain, who started at the same time as myself. He's not always sure whether a Muslim woman in bed will want to see him come and speak to her. So I'm always watching how I approach. It's important, having to play by ear. And when we train our volunteers, this is what we do. We go through lots of different role play, we go through lots of different exercises to help them to understand and practice some of the approach. So I remember there was one patient, he was the only Muslim in the ward, and somebody had referred him and said, could you please go and see Abdullah Khan, who's in bed, whatever. So I went over, and I knew that they thought that it would be really good because he was a bit lonely, and I think he didn't speak English, and I spoke in either Urdu or Punjabi, and I was able to talk to him in his language. So I approached him, and I let him know where I was from, and then looked to him, because if now he was going to say, oh, that's very kind, thank you for coming, but I'm okay, then I have to know I must not take this personally. It's not about me. Our work is all about the patient. It's about what they need, what they want. So if they want us there, fantastic. If they don't want us there, doesn't matter. We say to them words to the effect of, well, I will remember you in my prayers, or, well, I hope everything goes well for you. Lovely meeting you. Bye, or Salam, or however you would be responding to that patient. And then you make your exit. So that's what's really important in terms of keeping and maintaining a good rapport with the patient. Well, anyway, he didn't reject me. And I started talking to him, and he asked me to sit down, and he called me, and I know I'm in Malaysia and you speak Malay, but he could only speak Punjabi and Urdu, and he said to me, he called me w.b.t, and w.b.t means daughter, which I thought was lovely, so sweet. And so I sat down with him and started to listen and listen and listen. Do you know what? That's all he wanted to do. He just wanted to talk and talk and talk. He missed his grandson, 2-year-old grandson, and he wasn't bothered about everybody and anybody else coming to see him. He just missed his two-year-old grandson. And he had no one to share that with, but he did with the chaplain. And our volunteers do exactly the same thing. So for our volunteers, we train them in listening skills. Now you might think, well, what's so hard about listening? But actually, listening is not always very easy. And I love it when we do our training for our volunteers, because we don't do it in a room like this. We don't have everybody sitting in the audience listening to a lecture or a talk. We really sit in a room with chairs. We move the chairs about. We do lots of different types of exercises. And we put everybody's put into positions where they have to practice listening. Just listening doesn't mean just using your ears. Well, it does actually. But we don't just do listening. We do active listening. And when it comes to active listening, what we're doing is we are taking in everything that is being said and trying to feel the spirit of this person. We're trying to connect with this person. So we're trying to use our spirituality to connect with this person's spirituality so that we can begin to really have a relationship where there is an understanding. And that person then can find the therapy that's needed in terms of where they're coming from. In our exercises, just to give you a little glimpse, you're timed. You sit there, you're timed, and it's amazing because you realize that you can't speak, you're not allowed to speak while the other person is speaking to you. So you listen and you listen, and each time, you know what's happening? You sort of, oh yeah, oh. Or it's like, oh, I've been there as well. Or, oh, I've got 2 children too. Oh. It's so easy for us to keep speaking and butting in, but that's not active listening. We do teach, we train people later on to know when to bring in these things. There will be some patients that think, oh, what are they here for? They don't say. Okay, so there's a balance to everything, but that's what we do. And it's incredible the kind of what we recognize about ourselves actually, because we begin to realize that we're not as good listeners as we think we were or we are. With chaplains, they are expected to be religious and committed to their faith, and they're supposed to know about their faith, very much about their faith. They're supposed to be able to guide. They are supposed to guide people who are a particular faith. All right? Our volunteers don't need to be trained to that level. Our volunteers are trained to do some of the listening skills I shared with you, to be beside the patient. Alongside is how we describe it. To be there for that patient to be able to share what they want to share in a safe, confidential space. But you don't have to be so knowledgeable about your religion. If you are, alhamdulillah, that's great, that's fantastic, praise be to God. But actually, it's not essential. For the volunteer, what is important is that whatever they can bring, they will bring, particularly in terms of spiritual and pastoral care. And that's what we teach. Now, if that person knows more, so for example, the latest volunteer that I've just recruited is a Sikh chaplain. Not a Sikh chaplain, is a Sikh volunteer. And I've been dying to have her on board because so many times, yes, we do have a Sikh chaplain that we can call on board, but she's not there every day or all the time. Our volunteers go from ward to ward, from bed to bed, meeting everybody, and then the way that they support the chaplain is if there is a need for a chaplain to make a visit, they make a referral. So the volunteer is there sitting and talking and sharing with the patient, and then after a while in talking they say something like, now I'll talk mainly about my Muslim examples because most of you are Muslims here and you might be able to relate to that better then. Just to be able to say something like, they might ask, oh, I can't use water. How do I make my ablution? How do I make my wudu? And then the volunteer might think, oh yeah, it's tayammum, and they'll say, they might know that you do tayammum or dry ablution. But then when they say, well, how do I do it? Many of our volunteers would not be aware of how to do it. Yeah? My new Sikh volunteer, she's not at the stage of being like our Sikh chaplain, where she has memorized certain prayers and can do certain type of recitation that she needs for our Sikh patients. But as a volunteer, she can say, well, I can call somebody to come and do that for you. And that's what volunteers do all the time. They're there to be alongside the patient, and then after that, they are there to be able to make a referral as well. So what's really important is that they give them that wonderful, beautiful spiritual care. They don't proselytize. We don't make assumptions. It's so easy to make assumptions. There was one person who once said, this is in the women's hospital. She said to me, oh, I told her, the young mother that had come, that, you know, I know you're not married, and I know that this is not a baby you wanted, and I know you're not even living with this man anymore, but you've now got this pregnancy. Excuse me. But you know what? Just repent and just make sure you don't do this again. And unfortunately, this patient felt very, very upset and angry. But actually, does it make sense that she got angry? Because this person might have been saying to her something kind and, well, not kind, some good advice, but it's not chaplaincy. And we try to train people to not tell, to not say, you should. This is how it should be, or you should do that. Don't do this, don't do that. It's not our place. In fact, in our setting in Britain, nobody does that. Nobody's expected to tell people what to do. What we are expected to do is give informed choice. Everything has to go back to that person to be able to make that choice. So even in my approach, I will say, can I take a seat? It's all about choice. It's about not invading somebody else's space. So our volunteers learn to do that. I want to tell you that our volunteers, have you got a bit of the gist of what a chaplain does? Yeah? Our volunteers, subhanallah, glory be to God, our volunteers are are treated in exactly the same way as our paid staff are. So a volunteer doesn't come to work and thinks on a particular day, I don't feel like going in today. I'm doing it for free anyway. No. If the volunteer has a dental appointment, they're expected to call in. They're expected to say, I'm ever so sorry, but I won't be able to come in tomorrow because I have this appointment. When they want to take leave and go on holiday, they need to be able to say, I need to take from the first week of June to the third week off, please. We have a board, so everybody else knows who's in on these days. Who can we go to? Who can we ask to go and see this patient or that patient? Do you know, my sisters and my brothers, it is impossible to see all the patients in a large hospital. So just one of the hospitals that I work in has 16,000 beds, has 1,200 beds. It's not possible for us to go and see everybody. And that's the reason why we need our chaplaincy volunteers even more. Because they come and they support our work. They come and they go and visit from bed to bed to bed to bed. And the people who don't want them, they don't want them, but at least they have the option and the choice of having that. So our chaplains have to do mandatory training in the hospital, which is a one full day where you have to learn about information governance, you have to learn about infection control, you have to learn about safety and risk, you have to do your fire training, and so forth, okay? And every single person in the trust has to do that, whether you are paid or whether you are unpaid. When I first got my job, I was absolutely bowled over. I couldn't believe that Allah had given me a job that was so rewarding. Especially for my non-Muslim friends here, I would like to be able to say that when I quote some verses of Quran, that probably makes sense to you, but hadith or sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, is the other reference that Muslims use. And in one of those references, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, when anyone goes to see a patient, makes a visit, sees a patient in the morning, 70,000 angels pray for them right up until the evening. And then the hadith, the narrative of the Prophet, the saying of the Prophet, peace be upon him, it carries on and says, and if anybody goes to visit the sick in the evening, 70,000 angels pray for them right up until the morning. So that's the person who's going to do the visit. And you think, and I just thought, wow, and I'm going to be doing that, you know, as part of my job. It was just mind-blowing. And I'm paid for it as well. Anyway, shouldn't be telling you if I'm talking about volunteers. Anyway, so that was that, but it was just absolutely amazing. Now, the fact that as Muslims, we believe that it is so rewarding, and with other religions and other faiths, there is a belief of benefiting yourself from doing good and giving. That in itself is profound. And that in itself is the incentive to be out there, to go and do the things the work. Okay, so our volunteers, we have loads of them, and they are, majority of them are all Christian, and they do some fantastic work. And they see everybody. Now, sometimes we have volunteers that will go and just see them, their own religious patients, and sometimes we have volunteers that will see absolutely everybody, because what they're doing is simply not the religious care, but the spiritual and pastoral care, and sitting by them. And one of the things that I love about this so much is that it means that we begin to get to know one another. It means that we are now being able to show others about the care and the love and that we have between each other. Otherwise, we find ourselves isolating ourselves all the time. If a patient needs a specific religious need, I will say to them, oh, we have a Hindu chaplain. Would you like me to call him over? And they'll say, oh, it'll be up to, but they'll say, oh, that would be really lovely, yes, please. And then I'll make a referral, and I'll make sure that Rakesh, our Hindu priest, will come and he will go and visit that patient. In the same way, the other volunteers, not just the Muslim volunteers, any volunteers, will leave me referrals saying, there's so-and-so who wants to be able to see you. And our volunteers work like this. They are so fantastic working in chaplaincy. We love them because they do amazing work. And in fact, some of them have been with us for years, decades, because they love what they do. And it's just incredible what they give and what the patient feedback says about about them. But what's really important is that they understand that they must never make assumptions. So, let me give you one little story where I had gone to see a patient, and I had just finished with this patient. She was Muslim, and she'd been referred to me. We'd been talking about some Islamic issues. We'd finished, and I saw there was another lady sitting in her chair just nearby. And I noticed the name was an Arab name. And I thought, she's probably Arab. She might not be, but she's probably Arab. And I looked at her, and I always have a habit of smiling at everybody just in case they want to talk to me. And I smiled, and I said, Assalamualaikum. And she said, wa alaikum assalam, the reply to the peace greeting. And then she said it with such happiness that I thought, I'd come a little bit closer, and maybe said something like, how are you doing today? And said who I was. And she seemed to be very happy, and invited me to sit down. So I sat down, and we had a lovely conversation. She was getting quite well. She was ready to go home. I wasn't with somebody who was really, really sick and it was hard to listen to. No, it was lovely. I don't know what we chatted about, but it was really nice. I loved it. And then about 15 minutes into the conversation, I suddenly realized, after talking to her, that she wasn't even Muslim. But she had said, wa alaikum assalam, and I'd said to her, oh, Allah, you'll get better soon, and she said, inshallah. And I had, when she told good things about her going and getting better and leaving, I think she was going to be discharged the following day, and I said, oh, alhamdulillah, and she said, alhamdulillah. She was a Christian Egyptian Copt. Her religion was Christianity. She wasn't a convert, to Christianity. That was her faith. But, Muslims think they can monopolize Arabic terms, religious terms. It doesn't belong to us. this was her language. Belongs to her more than it does to us. But this is her language. So she was speaking and saying the same things because she believed in God. And what did she call him? Allah. Exactly. There was no other word for him. He's Allah. So many things we learn, but we have to teach our volunteers, don't make assumptions. I once went into the neonatal room, neonatal unit, and I saw a woman by her little baby, and the baby was getting better now, and she was changing the nappy. Or do you say diapers here? And she was changing the baby. She was a white woman. I didn't know whether she had any religion or not, any particular faith or none, right? I'd walked in, and I wasn't going to make any sense. So I walked in and saw her, and I said, "Oh, hello." And she said, "Hi." I said, "Oh, my name's Rihanna. I work in the chaplaincy department, and I've come. I'm just doing my rounds, and I'm just coming to see everybody and just say congratulations to you." And she said, she smiled. She seemed a little bit apprehensive at the beginning because you don't know what you've come to do or who you are. And I said, she could see my badge, but not closely enough. And she said, when I said congratulations, she smiled and she said, "Oh, thank you. My partner gave birth to her." So in that second, I had to think, don't show your expression, what you're feeling inside. And I went, "Oh, she's beautiful." Because she was beautiful. And that's what we do. Kind. We give comfort. We are alongside people. We are there to listen. We are there to give them a confidential space. There is a limit to confidentiality as well, and I don't know anything about your setup and how you work here, but we do at some point have to explain to the patient that everything that you share with me will not leave this room unless it'll remain confidential unless it means it's something about harm to yourself or harm to others. So you're making it clear, because we don't pretend. We are transparent. We need to build a trusting relationship. So the volunteer then will sit and they will chat and they will listen and so forth. And then what happens? Sometimes they come to the chaplain's department, speak to any one of the chaplains, whatever religion they are, and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, can I just share something, please?" And we find a confidential space where they can stop, sit and have a one-to-one with us, because it gets heavy. You will sit there and you will listen and listen and listen. You will hear atrocities. You will hear pain. You will feel pain. If volunteers don't either feel empathy naturally and are not able to not able to learn how to be empathic, it's not the place for you. This is not the role for you. So when we look and we select our volunteers, we look for these traits. Do they have it within them? Do they really want to be a volunteer? Patients really, really benefit from different people coming in. Sometimes some patients say to me, "Oh, there was a lovely young man that came the other day." And I said, "Oh, what day was that?" "Thursday." I said, "Yeah, that must have been John." He's really lovely, isn't he? That must have been John. She said, yes, that's right. That's what he was called. Ooh, can you ask him to come and send me egg? So sometimes they just love their intervention, the interaction that they've had with certain people. We don't do that, actually. We'll just say, whoever's on duty, they'll be the person to come. Sorry, forgive me, there are no traffic lights here, and I didn't put my timer on, and I came late. So can somebody just, one of the organizers, just let me know how I am for time? Would somebody like to speak to me, please? Yeah? Could you do 5? Thank you. It's me not looking, isn't it? Thank you. 5 minutes. All right. So we're going to be kind of like rounding off just here, and I'll just check that I haven't missed anything out talking to you. When we select volunteers, for me personally, I go out into the different communities, into the community, the Pakistani community, the Bengali community. I go out and I talk about chaplaincy, hearing, just to see if people are interested. Now I find everybody thinks it's absolutely amazing and it's fantastic, and they think it might be what they want to do themselves. I never push people, and I never say to them, oh, why don't you do it? You know, we need more. Especially men. We don't have as many men as we do in the Christian ones, so there are a lot of them, but for the Muslims, we don't have as many men. But we do have some, and sometimes I think we need to make a push. But I would also like to have volunteers of different languages, because if I've got people being able to speak different languages, they're going to be able to communicate with those patients even in a better way. And the people who might come up to me afterwards and say, oh, Rihanna, I really, really would love to be able to do this. How do I go about it? What do I do? And we have our own system, and we live in a digital world today, and nearly everybody has to do online beforehand. But to become a volunteer can often take about 6 months in our system. You have to have so many checks done. You have to have occupational health checks, as well as police checks. You have to have, you have to prove who you are and whether you really do live in the country, and all sorts of different things have to be checked before you can start. And until those checks have come, and you need to have 2 references also from your religious community of your background. So there is such a lot to have to do before you can even become a volunteer. But the people who are the ones that come to me and they say, oh, I really would like to do this, you know, I almost put them off even when they do come, because I let them know it's going to take a long time to get through it, that nobody's going to chase them, that they're going to have to keep on coming back and asking us, I've done this now, what do I do next? I've sent my form off for this, is that okay? Nobody's going to chase them. If they have that desire and that commitment and they want to be working with us, then they have to be on top of it all. Those are the people who become the committed people. We do a 6-week training course for them on all the different things I talked to you about earlier on, so that they are equipped to go out onto the wards. When they've done the 6 weeks training course, when I say 6 weeks, it's not 6 weeks full time. It's usually 3 hours a week, one session a week, because we like people to sort of like absorb much of what we're teaching them. And then after that, they start their shadowing. And shadowing is about going with the chaplain on the wards and watching them, being their shadow, observing, seeing how they actually do this. And I say to them, this is what it'll take a long time, and this is what you have to do. And then we need your commitment And you need to tell us when you need to want to go on holiday. You need to tell us when you can't come in. And you know, it's like putting everybody off, but it's important because it takes a lot of time and effort on our part to not only train, but to retain the chaplains and to supervise them. Sorry, not the chaplains, the volunteers, and to supervise them. It takes a lot of work and time and effort. So we don't want people who just want to come and get a certificate and go. We need people who want to be able to commit themselves. If we find that anybody has inclinations, and we find this out through the course, of wanting to proselytize, then that's when we decide, we're not going to select that person. And then that person's told very nicely about maybe they should be doing their work elsewhere. We also go on to doing additional training once volunteers have started. So we call it phase 2 training, where they now are already working for us, but we will invite them to different talks. And we will have different people from the different departments in the hospital coming and speaking about, well, it could be about bereavement, and the bereavement officer might come and speak about that, and everybody will learn more about that. It could be about end of life, it could be about organ transplantation, it could be about absolutely anything, but that's additional training for volunteers to be able to come and have, should they want to be able to have that. So, I think my 5 minutes are up for now. And after lunch, we will then continue, and perhaps we'll be a little bit more interactive then about the do's and don'ts. I've mentioned a little bit here now. I'm sorry I haven't really given you much time to be able to ask very much, but inshallah, in the next session. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you. Allah bless you.
Alhamdulillah, thank you Ms. Rana for a very interesting sharing and a very good point to add that. Okay, kita akan meneruskan majlis dengan bahasa Melayu ya. Sebab jemputan kita ini insyaAllah akan sampaikan in bahasa Melayu. Okay, kita teruskan program pagi ini dengan mendengar perkongsian daripada seorang individu yang mempunyai pengalaman yang luas, sangat luas berkenaan sukarelawan ini. Sebelum saya menjemput beliau, dah naik dah. Okey, saya akan berkongsi sedikit berkenaan jemputan kita kali ini. Okey, nama diberi Dr. Zafri Ismadi bin Muhammad Anis. Dr. Zafri Ismadi merupakan pakar pediatrik yang bertugas di Jabatan Pediatrik Hospital Serdang, jiran sebelah ni. Dr. Zafri yang lebih dikenali dengan panggilan Dr. Jeb telah lama berkhidmat di dalam Malaysian Relief Agency dan menyandang jawatan sebagai pengarah perubatan MRA. Selain itu, beliau juga menyandang jawatan sebagai Ketua Biro Kesihatan ABI Malaysia. Saya rasa ada yang dah kenal Dr. Jeb, betul? Alhamdulillah, Dr. Jeb terkenal orangnya ya. So, Dr. Jeb, insyaAllah jika Dr. Jeb bersedia, kita akan teruskan dengan penyampaian Dr. Jeb yang bertajuk Expectation of Hospital Volunteers. Dipersilakan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Inna hamdalillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inu wa nastaghfiruh. Wa na'udzu billahi min syururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. May yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarika lahu wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu amma ba'd. I'm a bit nervous here. It's been a while since I've given a talk to such a big crowd, and even further to be stably standing. I was still on a wheelchair 4 months ago. Alhamdulillah, not fully recovered yet, but fit enough to be in front of you all. And I beg to differ the MC. I'm gonna mix a bit. I'm gonna be totally be talking in English. I'm gonna be some mix between English and Bahasa Melayu. Even the slides are done as such as well. But if anything I don't understand, you can always ask me. Okay, my topic is a bit more technical, I can say, in relation with our current practice. Nevertheless, my experience is it is a meager drop of water as compared to Miss Rehana. I think even the content of my presentation are known to many and can be quite repetitive to some. Okay. So I will begin with introduction. Just a bit introduction. Why we choose hospital, and then what are required out of us, and the technical part is how to become a volunteer, a hospital volunteer, and maybe some minor, small little sharing what things that I've done before. It's a noble thing to do. Sukarelawan, pekerjaan yang mulia, pekerjaan baik. And nothing said best by during the keynote address by Ustaz Dr. Siddiq Fadil tadi. Kan, amal yang terbaik adalah amal yang dilakukan untuk manfaatkan orang, untuk menerima manfaat pada orang lain dan juga menggembirakannya. Ini amal yang paling Allah suka. Dan itu yang kita buat. This is what we are doing. I quoted some verses yang benda baik yang surah buat, and good deeds will be rewarded jannah insyaAllah. Ini surah Hud ayat 23. And then bir, apa itu kebaikan? Dan kebaikan dalam surah Al-Baqarah ayat 107 ni Allah kata bukan sekadar tengok kiri kanan ataupun benda ibadat semata-mata. Ini yang Dr. Siddiq Fadil sebut tadi, soleh sosial dan soleh spiritual. Sekadar soleh spiritual doesn't make you a good Muslim. Yeah, you need to have some component of action, good deeds, things that you do, zakat, sedekah, membantu anak yatim, and helping the sick is included in this verse. And also doing ziarah is an obligation by right. I can say fardu kifayah, if I may say so. In this hadith, narrated by Bukhari Muslim, Muslim has a right to another, and they are this hadith basically narrated by Muslim. A Muslim has a right on another Muslim. There are 6 rights of one Muslim to another. If you meet one of them, say salam. If they invite you, please come. And they ask for an advice, give them an advice. If they sneeze, you say rahmakallah. And if someone is sick, you visit them. And if they pass away, you accompany them to the funeral and to the grave. My breath is causing some disruption. I'm breathing heavily. Okay, why hospital? It's basically, essentially, hospital is the best place to do good deeds. Yeah, it's where people with problems come, either pain or a difficulty, whatever form. They will come to hospital. People that come to hospital are people with needs, with problems that need to be solved, be it their own disease or something else. The social illness, family issues sometimes. Yeah, we do see them. And it's a place where life begins. Yes. And a place where life ends. Hospital. A place so dramatic that it's even more dramatic than the cerita TV that we're seeing every day. There are many things that happen in hospital. They are beyond the dramas that we see in TV. And they are place of memory. Place that you remember. Especially those who have been admitted there, me included. And their experience in ICU, being an ICU patient, bedbound, not vulnerable, cannot do anything, dependent on someone. Me, who used to be someone who can run, jump, actively doing anything what I want. But at that moment, I was vulnerable, helpless. And that experience, that's some of the experience that those patients have. And then things that we do there, such a heart-touching activities or health system that we provide, will be appreciated, inshallah, definitely. So hospital is the best place to do good deeds. And hospital is a different place as compared to other, I can say other fields, other place that we do good deeds in. Lapangan lain yang kita buat, kampung orang asli, for example, those who are involved with community projects kan, dengan masyarakat, dengan gelandangan, kan. Hospital ni is a different place as compared to all this. It's a structured building, it's a structured system with a plan, what being structured in such a way that it is safe, convenient, and easily accessible for patients. And all the facilities included the diagnostic facilities, X-ray, CT, MRI, lab, and the OT, etc., intensive care. And it's a place that never stops. It runs 24/7, 365. Yeah. In the corridor, if you see a light bulb being turned on, it will remain on until the light bulb is hancur, pecah, whatever. To that extent, it runs continuously. Staff shifting, changing based on their shift, but the hospital runs. It closes, it never stops. And it has its own hazards and risks. Ada masalah, ada risiko dan bahayanya sendiri yang kita kena awasi dan perhati dan berjaga-jaga. And in terms of system, has its own rounds. The treatment process, admission, masuk, and then the blood taking, the clocking, and then the administration of medication treatment and whatever, the surgery, etc. And then discharge, okay? And then the movement, the observation of patients and the movement of patients and the safety of the whole hospital are also in the system. When they shout out, it's code red. Volunteers should know what is it about. If it's code blue, what is code blue? And there are many colors there, code grey, code pink, etc. Code pink tak apa, is related to maternity, doesn't concern volunteer so much, something like that. Each hospital has their own different color codes. For something, code pink in HUKM means bersalin, kan, ready untuk bersalin. Something like that. Code red, kebakaran macam tu, so kena tahu. Code blue masuk lain pula. So you have to know, as a volunteer, wherever you are, you need to have some knowledge of what this information means. And then the people, of course. The most important thing in a hospital are the people. They are patients, various backgrounds, diverse religion, race, personality, and also socioeconomic status. Mainly in the, here in Malaysia, we have private and government hospitals. And we can see those who are the well-off ones, those with the wealthy enough will go to private ones, whereas not necessarily so, but the low economic income will be admitted to the government hospital. And then the family members, including those who comes and visit, and those who are there to take care of the patients, the relative they are staying in with. And then the staff, don't forget the staff, doctors, nurses, attendant, MA, medical assistant, lab staff, etc. And the supporting staff, the cleaners, don't forget them, they are important to the hospital. They clean every shift just to make sure, they have the very strict SOP to make sure that the floor of the hospital clean all the time. And then the maintenance. When you report something, someone will come and respond to that particular maintenance issue, like bulb blown off, for example, a leaking pipe. And then safety, the security guards, also another important person in the hospital. They make sure that hospital is a safe place for everyone, patients and visitors included. This is a video. I just want to share something with regards to people in the hospital. I find this very it touches my heart a lot, this video. Sorry. Trying to make it louder. Not loud enough. Too loud. Okay, talking about people again in the hospital, seeing them, regardless whether they are patient or staff, all of them has their own things of concern at the moment. If only we can empathize and understand, and that will really make us a better volunteer. That is required of us as a hospital volunteer. And understanding men as a whole consists of these dimensions: physical dimension, mental, emotional, spiritual, and social. Yeah, and this when a patient gets admitted, as a doctor, me myself, as a doctor, we treat, sadly, we treat the physical component. Most of the time, almost every time, we tend to forget other aspects, other dimensions of a patient. We didn't even bother to ask how's the kids today at home, how the rest are, how are you emotionally. We seem to be more concerned in terms of getting to the diagnosis and treating it. And that's the flaw on our part, on my part as a physician, as a pediatrician. Then, so understanding this, it's not that we cannot treat, it's just that we don't have the time to do so. We're trying our best. Those who are enlightened, those who understand the needs of a patient, trying to implement a holistic treatment as much as possible, we try to do this. Yet, with all the patient load in the ward, with bed occupancy rate, the number of patients per ward, percentage of beds occupied in the ward on that day, hours, 100% most of the days, even exceed 100% on some days. We cannot, we do spend extra time trying as much as possible to entertain parents, me personally, but to entertain all is way too much. So that's why we need volunteers. Yeah? I would like to share with you another video acknowledging this different dimension that we see in men. Okay, not this one. It's a different video, sorry. It's the same one like the previous one. Another heart-touching video, which I can really relate to myself.
I had heard what no woman ever wants to hear. You have breast cancer. And I remember sitting up and go, what did you just say? And she said, yeah, you have breast cancer. It's confirmed. I walked out of the breast center and I stood in the lobby going, oh my God, what the hell just happened?
I had a very uncommon occurrence when your pancreas explodes, as mine did. It felt like somebody cut me wide open and put a red hot frying pan in my abdomen. And that happened over minutes. I went from living my life to as about sick as a human being can be. Over the 4 months of hospitalization, I had 20 operations or major procedures. My wife literally camped out at my bedside every day because we didn't know if that was going to be the last day.
I had to have a CT of the abdomen. That's where they found out I had a mass on my kidney. I'm like, oh my God. Just to hear the word cancer can blow anyone away.
I was driving home. I didn't feel right. My car drove off the median, dropped about 30, 35 feet. I had a seizure, broke my back, sternum, ankle. A lot of things were broken.
I spent about 3.5 weeks unconscious and really had almost none of my major organs working. And yet I was hearing many conversations quite sharply. My family had 2 discussions about end-of-life care. I had the thought how interesting it was that I was watching myself die.
When I initially was diagnosed, how it was presented to me could have been maybe a softer touch. I mean, she scared me. I mean, it's scary stuff to begin with, but she knew I was alone. All I was worried about was living. I wanted to dance at my daughter's wedding. I wanted to hold my grandchildren.
Having that fear, not knowing what the outcome was going to be.
I was being sustained only by tube feeds. I was unable to eat. It was very difficult to to do almost anything. So to be reduced to somebody who's essentially dependent on others for almost every facet of your activities of daily living is really difficult.
It's sort of a helpless feeling, especially when you're immobile. That's even more helpless because you really rely on them for everything. So having that one-on-one communication, because really you're waiting there and you're laying in that bed all day and all you want is 5 or 10 minutes. That's it.
So during my ICU stay, I lost 50 pounds. Every time that the nurses and others came to turn me, to change the sheets, clean me up, it felt as if my hips and my shoulders were coming out of joint. When you have completely lost your ability to care for yourself, you find yourself vulnerable and with limited dignity left.
Be kind to the person in passing, walking a little slower than you. You don't really know what they're going through.
A lot of people tell me, oh, I know how it feels. You know what? Until you become a patient, no, you do not. Those feelings are entirely different. Yes, they are.
I could tell within seconds of a caregiver entering my room of whether they were in the moment and actually caring about me. It's a sense that you know if they're there to help.
Whether it's from holding their hand or patting them on the back. All those things end up being very important. Sicker you are, probably more important they are.
When I feel like I'm at the end of my rope sometimes during a busy day, then I try to put myself back in that bed. And then when I see somebody who might be angry or who might be frustrated, I remind myself what that feels like to be there. And then it makes sense.
Seems like a drama, but those are true stories. And it happened in when the hospital next door on daily basis with some of us as well. So for us, we need this aspect, emotional aspect, spiritual aspect, neglected most of the time. And hence, there's a need for hospital volunteers because to assist in the healthcare workers in addressing these dimensions that are not entertained during hospital care. That video, it's not my first time watch that video. It was a different feeling previously before my accident and after, and I'm still tearful sometimes. Hence, this is why we need hospital volunteers. It complements. Hospital volunteers are there to complement the function of a healthcare worker in the hospital itself, and address whatever issues that are not settled. Mainly the spiritual and emotional aspect in particular. Sometimes maybe mental aspect as well. So the role, as I mentioned before, is to provide support. There is social, emotional, and spiritual support. As I mentioned also, to complement the therapeutic role of the hospital. And also to bridge the link between patients, hospital, and community with the rest, with the community agencies, organizations, either the Karya Masjid, NGOs, university, faculties of university societies, support groups, etc. And there are so many things that we can do in assistance. I can only list this, and the list is not is infinite actually. These are just some that I can think of, but there are many others. We added some creativity, some innovation. The list can be a lot. As simple as Zara, I can begin with that. Help in feeding, stay there in the ward as a volunteer, help in moving patients around, feed them, clean them, as in simple ADLs, activities of daily living, bathing, cleaning, toileting, etc. Or even have a time to play a board game. Bring along a chess or Scrabble, associate along those especially orthopedic patients who are bedridden, immobile, not say immobile, because they have something stuck to their legs, they cannot move around so much. Traction, they need to be pulled, their legs need to be pulled. So they're kind of bored. Battery phone dah habis, data dah habis, tak tahu nak buat apa. So you are there to assist them. Ajaklah main chess, ajak main board game apa. Sometimes a simple chit chat means a world to them. A simple chit chat, sembang-sembang biasa. Mungkin bagi orang sembang kosong, tapi it's not. Is taking their mind off their disease, their illness at that moment for a brief minutes. It helps. And even we can even read to them or assist them in performing prayers, or even pray with them. It's their prayer that we want, because their prayer are mustajab than us as patients, as what God has promised. So those who are taking exams, do ziarah a lot. I'm saying that because I did so, and I made it through my exam well. Ziarah a lot, and when you ask the patient to pray for you, or you pray, ask them to aminkan doa kita, because ni macam mengambil kesempatan kan, tapi it's true. We akan have an abuse kan, but it's a God promise to them, and we are using that privilege for our gain. Okay, and many other things. Baca Quran sama-sama. We can organize events. Like 2 weeks ago, Hari Wanita, so we brought along some flowers, hand them to mothers and female patients in the ward, staff and nurses as well. Help them carry things after discharge. And that one as inpatients as they are in the ward. And you can do a lot more when they are being discharged. And assist them during follow-ups. You can transport them from their house to the hospital for appointment, TCA, and then send them back. And then you can even stay there, stand there at the corridor. It's not like a scarecrow or something, but not to scare people, but to tell them you are available, meaning they can go and ask you, adik nak pergi ICU, nak pergi X-ray kat mana? Because you are the way, sini saya tunjukkan jalan. I can bring them along to show where they're supposed to go. Okay, there are many things. I'm seeing this a lot in Sedang. It's a huge hospital. You have East Wing and West Wing. East Wing caters for some many diagnostic staff, and the West Wing are mercy clinics. So patients datang tak tahu turun bawah lah, ada tingkat yang tak berkenaan, tingkat 3, tingkat pentadbiran. Dia orang sesat. They are lost. They don't know who to ask. Kan, tak tahu, dia orang pun tak nak tanya. Kita yang kena offer kadang-kadang. Jadi it's good to have someone like that around, pushing their wheelchair, and we can even do home visits as an outpatient thing, and those with skills can train them and do rehabilitative care. Those who had an injury, who might be disabled, you can even assist them in terms of teaching skills and also finding suitable occupation for them. And those with skills, professional skills, can do even more, such as counseling, or a teacher even can provide the teaching to families, the whole family. Sometimes because the parents themselves are afflicted, so the children are being left somewhat neglected, and as teachers, you can assist the kids, or home tuition for the sick family. And this is the don'ts. But I think Ms. Rana will explain further in the afternoon. But mine, basically, I will just touch on I would say, a simple one. But don't need to worry, there are not so many. The things that we can do are even a lot more, plenty more. But it is done to protect integrity and trustworthiness of volunteers, and also to protect patients and volunteers from harm and hazards. Yeah. Okay, the simple, you must not interfere with the own process, of course. During rounds, jangan kacau, jangan seperti datang buat round, duduk berdiri kat situ, tanya lagi, pakcik, dia sakit apa? Tak payah. Ini confidentiality, satu lagi, as I mentioned, confidentiality is a trust given to us. And because every ill is a aib, is a somewhat, it's a bad thing to the patient. So we must not, even now with the advent of social media, we can post it online. Kan, hari ni ziarah pesakit sekian-sekian, pakcik ni gambar cantik kat situ kan, lepas tu dengan sakit dia yang kita tak nak dengar lah, AIDS for example kan, ataupun STD kan, tahu STD, sexually transmitted disease kan, we announce it to the world. Tak nak macam tu, we must not do that. Then of course we do not discriminate kan? Ziarah tengok yang Muslim je, yang Muslim tak nak tengok, ataupun yang lelaki tengok yang perempuan je, yang lelaki tak nak tengok. Do not discriminate. Gender, religion, no race. Or taking advantage kan, jual barang, pakcik produk saya ni baik untuk kencing manis pakcik ni. Janganlah buat macam tu, jangan. And know our limits as volunteers. There are things that we can help, and there are things that we can't. And so know when to back off, or know when the involvement is too intimate sometimes. Know when to back off. Then taking pictures, of course, this is dangerous. Taking pictures can be dangerous nowadays, especially IG or Facebook. You can simply take and post there and then. Facebook live lagi kadang-kadang kan. No, it's dangerous. Totally no. But yeah, to me I would say no lah, totally. With some provision, very minimal provisions. And infection control, this is one of the more important thing that we have to address. Infection control, hand washing especially, and hand washing once every patient. Before and after. Before you touch, before you shake, you want to shake the patient's hand. Wash your hands first and then shake their hand. And after that, when you are done, wash your hand again before moving on. Okay? And if necessary, wear PPEs, personal protective equipment. And let's say you really have to go into an isolation, or patients are unwell, you want to prevent yourself from being infected, you wear protective equipments. And then some areas are not allowed. These are critical areas, I can say. Labor room, jangan masuk, lelaki lagi lah, masuk buat apa ni, buat dia kat labor room, tengok orang tengok apa, tengah bersalin je. Jangan cari pasal. Jangan cari pasal. And then OT, of course, because you have to wear special gown, apa namanya, OT punya, scrubs. And isolation ward, of course, this one to prevent you or prevent the patient from being infected by you. Okay, isolation, they are being isolated for a reason. Intensive care, of course, tak boleh. Nursery lagilah. Risiko, there are risk of abduction. Might not happen here, but they are happen elsewhere. Someone entered nursery and then abduct a kid, bawa balik rumah. It can happen. So it's a well-guarded facility, well-guarded unit. Records office, takut masuk. Biasa orang insurance akan more interested in record office. So this is the technical part. How to become volunteer. I think most of you have received the borang that I handed over. And the form is to register yourself. Bagi dah, minta tolong bagi. There's the borang for you to fill up to become hostel volunteer. The prerequisites are mentioned here: 18 years and above, 16 years old, boleh, but with parents' consent. Must not have infectious disease. For example, like TB, hepatitis B, something like that. And then must be fit and well. No criminal records. Never broke any rules of volunteer in any other hospital. No conflict of interest. Ni kena ada juga. Okay, ni this group tak boleh, tak dibenarkan menjadi sukarelawan. Okay, this is the form that I handed over. Okay, tak susah. Dan ni nak minta isi. Nanti di hujung sebelum balik saya nak kumpulkan, nak minta semua kumpulkan. Kita akan hantar ke mana hospital, para hadirin yang hadir ni kan, kita ikut mana hospital yang berdekatan, oh borang ni borang KKM daripada Kementerian Kesihatan, but it applies to all hospital under KKM. So if you have an interest to participate or to become a volunteer in that particular hospital, write it down. We can help you to submit it to that particular hospital. Okay, so fill it up and then hand to us at the end. I'll give it until the afternoon or before lunch hour. It's almost lunch hour. Maybe after that, after the break, just hand it to the registration counter in front, and then we will arrange for it to be submitted. Okay, and then we'll inform the social to inform you as well, and we also will assist. So you are a registered volunteer under that hospital. Preferably, actually, personally, I think I'll explain at the end of the seminar how we're gonna do this. But fill up your form first, okay? So a bit of a sharing. So we did last time, very long time ago. See, I was in Sedang Hospital before. Previously, I was in HKM, but I worked for a while in Sedang Hospital for about a year before I graduated as a pediatrician and got transferred to Temerloh. Then I had my accident and then got transferred back here. That's the good part of it lah. Okay, the hikmah yang Allah kurniakan pada saya. The good thing that Allah gave me my chance to come back here. Okay. So what we did last time, we gather in the beginning of the morning. We ziarah only mainly. Gather in the morning, and then we short briefing, and then we bring our stuff up. And sometimes when there are too many, you have to even use the trolley, borrow one, and then we go to the ward, and then distribute to them. Gambar macam ni, hati-hati juga. Kalau nak ambil gambar, kalau macam ni tak apa, tak nampak patient kan. Tapi in this case, you have to be careful a bit. You have to make sure the patients are well covered with permission. And kalau boleh jangan candid macam ni cantik. This is one good picture. Cuma cantik kemas tengok kamera. Bukannya gambar candid tengah kaki terkangkang. Tambah orthopedic ward kan, kaki dia kan kena angkat dan tarik. Sama dia having contraction kan. Maka kita terangkat dan kita ambil gambar pula, tak pakai spender pula. Janganlah. Jangan ambil gambar kan. So macam ni teratur, kemas. Okay, and then ni my own ward, buat kanak-kanak. Dan kita buat banyak lah. Ni yang hari tu kita bagi flowers, and then after that we gather again and then we debrief any issues, any perkara berbangkit, any things that they need to be brought to attention. Masa tu kita akan bagi tahu. So itulah, kadang sikit, kadang ramai kan. So the numbers fluctuate. Okay, so it's simple. What is required out of you is kindness, compassion, commitment and determination. Okay, I have listed down the prerequisite, the do's, not the do's, the syarat-syarat untuk tak boleh jadi sukarelawan. Syarat-syarat boleh, syarat tak boleh. Okay, and the form been handed over to you to fill up, submit to us and we'll hand over. Ya, sebab untuk bergerak jadi sukarelawan kena rasmi dan ini cara rasmi dia. Tapi ours are not as not yet. I mean, our volunteers at the moment we are not as detailed as your center, but we are going towards it. Okay, we'll make sure we have training sessions being done to make sure that the hostel volunteers are well trained and competent, knows the risks, knows how to attend to a patient and their family members when doing visits ziarah and other activities related to patient care. Okay, I think that will be all for me. Wallahu alam. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Any question? I think I can take some question. Ada soalan?